What if you had run just now when your teacher told you to file into the theater and take a seat, but instead you ran? Now I know someone must have thought about it, but what if you actually had? Would you have looked both ways when crossing the street? And if you hadn't, would you have gotten hit by a car? Would you get to know the person behind the wheel, and would they become your next best friend or your new mortal enemy? Or would they have just driven off and left you in the street? Now, it's strange, because even though you think about it now, it's already too late. The moment has passed. That car could be long gone, and there could be a completely new car with a completely different driver, or simply no car at all. So all of these thoughts bring me to what I want to discuss today: overthinking. The textbook definition of overthinking is straightforward. It is the act of thinking excessively or repeatedly about a situation, often replaying past moments or imagining possible future outcomes. But overthinking is much more than just a definition. It is a state of mind. It is the feeling of being mentally stuck, where one moment could turn into 10 possibilities, or one decision into 100 alternate endings. And overthinking actually impacts all different age groups. Young children often imitate the actions of those around them. So when what they see at school conflicts with what they observe at home or in other environments, it can lead them to question which one is right and what should be standard. For example, when a child observes loud communication or forceful action at home while seeing quite the contrary at school, it can lead them to overthink how they should behave. But as we grow older, overthinking becomes a natural part of our lives. We build deeper connections and stronger relationships with people. We start to care more how others will perceive us and how we can perfect every aspect of our lives that we expose to others. But at some point, the pressure to maintain a particular image, to be liked, respected, and even understood becomes overwhelming. I know this because I do it, and I'm sure you do too. So let's look at some real, reoccurring events. Maybe you just got your test back, and looking at the results only makes you think of how close you were to doing better, how differently you would feel if you had just studied a little bit more. Maybe you're waiting hours for someone to text you back, thinking you said too much or not enough. Maybe you're replaying a conversation you had that day and convinced yourself that you laughed too loudly or spoke too quietly or acted differently than you usually would. This is exactly where overthinking thrives. In grades, relationships, opportunities, especially the ones we don't take. But for me, overthinking played a significant role in one of the biggest decisions of my life. In 5th grade, I drove past the middle school I was supposed to attend and saw a cop car. 10-year-old me saw this and said no. I communicated this to my parents and ended up going to a private middle school instead. One moment, one image, one decision. And suddenly, my entire path changed. I never looked back. I adjusted, I changed, I even thrived. But years later, after transitioning back into the public school system, I started to wonder and think back, because what if I had changed? What if I had never left public school? Who would my friends be? Who would I be? Would my beliefs change? My opinions? My mental health? But I let these questions go to be about more bigger and broader decisions, because what if I had never changed? What if I had never grew, developed, or even learned? And as quickly as I was to have these thoughts, I flipped the switch and focused on the other side of the story. Because what if I had left? What if I had moved? Would people remember me? Would I remember them? Would my heart still stop every time I checked my grades? But I let these questions escalate from hypotheticals, building off real past events, to completely new versions of myself and my life. Because what if I had left? Finally, had too many Instagram reels gone to my head and I ran out my front door? What would I have taken? Who would I have told? Would there have been signs? At some point, these questions stopped being about reflecting on the past. They started to spiral out of control. They were no longer about reflecting and learning from things in the past. They were about creating completely new versions of my life based on moments that had already passed. And this is where overthinking becomes dangerous. Psychologists say that overthinking is closely linked to mental health conditions like anxiety and even depression. So when we replay our past mistakes or imagine worst-case scenarios, our brain responds as if they are happening in real time. And over time, this can increase stress, heighten anxiety, lower self-esteem, and even strain relationships, even though nothing is actually happening. But this does not just affect students like us. Michael Phelps, an American swimmer and the world's most decorated athlete, speaks openly about his struggles with anxiety and overthinking. Despite winning gold medals on the world's biggest stage, he described, after winning a race, focusing on the smallest mistakes rather than his accomplishments. So despite being at the peak of success, overthinking does not disappear, and in many ways, it grows louder. However, overthinking is not entirely negative. Psychologist Charles Carver from the University of Miami suggests that overthinking can help us to improve our problem-solving skills and self-awareness. Okay, so overthinking, when managed, can help us learn from our past mistakes, better prepare us for future challenges, and even help us gather a deeper understanding of ourselves. In addition, author Adam Grant refers to this as rethinking, utilizing reflection as a tool to grow and learn from the past rather than to punish ourselves for it. So the issue is not thinking deeply. The issue is staying stuck. Knowing this, I hope it changes how you think when you lie awake late at night or driving home silently after a social gathering. I hope you can begin to use overthinking as a tool to help you grow and learn from the past rather than to doubt yourself. Because what if just by being here today, you made a life-altering decision? Thank you.